Network Entertainment.
And welcome to my podcast, the RJ Ledesma Podcast. In my podcast, I like to speak to business leaders and entrepreneurs to learn more about how they think about doing business, what are their success secrets, can we replicate them in our own businesses, and more importantly, what business opportunities do they see emerging in the near future. And I'm talking to truly a pioneer here in the Philippines when it comes to renewable energy. Thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Oliver Oli Tan. Oli right now is the president and CEO of Citycore Renewable Energy Corporation. So I'm so excited to have you over here, not just for us to better understand the importance of renewable energy, but really to see how you guys have built up the business over the years. So Oliver, maybe you want to say hi to the people listening here right now.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, RJ, and to your audience. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's my pleasure to really listen to you. And truth be told, I've already had a chance to speak with Oliver the last time for the business manual. We had a chance to interview him. And I was just really awed by the story which he gave. And then the circuitous route to putting up both Megawatt and eventually Citycore. But let's get first into Citycore. I know that people don't ask you to do an elevator pitch, but what is Citycore in essence? How do we describe it to people?
Yeah, so Citycore Renewable Energy, we are a power generation company. We basically build power plants, purely renewable energy. We're focused in solar, wind, and to be complemented by battery energy storage system. So basically, we sell electricity to the likes of your Meralco, even to the end users like industrial, commercial. We supply power to SM, to other factories. So essentially, we are rolling out 1 gigawatt of new solar plant every year to add to the supply for the country.
And having said that, give us an idea right now. I'm sure people don't understand. Well, let's get people better appreciation. Just what it means to add 1 gigawatt to the nation's power supply. What is the current picture of the power supply here in the Philippines?
Yeah, so the entire country demand is 20,000 megawatt. That's on a base load, meaning 24 hours in a day, right? And today, around 50% of our total demand are sourced from coal, okay? And then 20% are from natural gas, and the balance are from renewable energy sources. Being a country that import heavily, not only for our food requirement, but for energy, every year we burn US dollar just to import coal, gas, whereas we are located in a tropical region where we have abundant sunlight. It's effectively harnessing the sunlight to produce electricity, to light the bulbs in our homes.
I see. How come? I mean, having said that, no, if we knew nothing about this, we were saying, how come we've been doing that for the longest time, doing coal, when we could have been doing solar energy or renewable energy for a better period of time versus doing coal and the others?
Well, it has to do with technology. When we started solar, it was very, very expensive. You may recall that the government has to provide incentive via the feed-in tariff, wherein to encourage investments in the renewable energy. So it was only through the years when the technology caught up, such that solar is very, very cheap already and is at par with coal. That's why we see a lot of investment pouring into solar now.
I see. And what's interesting is that you're a new player playing with big boys, both international and local. And I'd love to for us to get into the story over there. But before that, maybe let's take a step back and let's talk a bit more about what I like to talk about, which is the secret origin of Oli Tan. So, Oli, help me a bit more. I know that before Megawide, and it's basically Megawide is not a subsidiary, but you work with Megawide, and Citycorp was part of Megawide. Is that correct?
It is a sister company.
Yes. Of Megawide. Let's start at the very beginning when Megawide was coming up and Citycore is part of it. What were you doing before Megawide and Citycore?
Yeah. So actually, my interest in finance started at a very early age. The age of 17 years old, so first year college. I was somehow fascinated with how the capital markets work. Funny because when my parents thought that I was going to school, I was my first course was electrical engineering. So
Okay.
I was influenced by my family to take up that course. Back then, I really don't know which course to take, right? So instead of going to class, I was actually going to one of the stockbroker in Juan Luna, in Binondo,
Binondo.
to trade stocks. Okay, so the key there is how you pick stock picks very well, right? Because I started with no capital. Back then, you can buy a stock and settle it on the fourth day. So having the right stock pick is key because you want the stock to go up on the third day before the fourth day. So you don't pay. You just earn the spread or the gain, right? So that was the time when my finance skills was harnessed. Okay. But really not the usual schooling, right? And after so that was also the reason why I got kicked out from UST. So I had to really I really, because it's really my passion. I think one thing good is I found my passion at a very early stage. And so after that, I pursue what I love most, which is I eventually finish my business ad in finance, right? And being a Filipino Chinese, I started my own trading business. So I import building materials, and Megawide was my client. So the relationship or the entry to that Megawide Citycore story was they started as a client vendor vendee relationship, and then one of the founder, which is Edgar Saavedra, I can still recall vividly. That was before Christmas Eve. That was Christmas Eve of 2009. Okay, so we were talking about, okay, what's your goals, what's my goals, etc. And Edgar knew that I have a finance background, right? So he said, "What do you think of my company, Megawide? Is it an IPO material?" Okay, so I said, yes. Okay. And even if I still trying to figure out how I'm going to do it, right? So he said, okay, why don't we do it? Okay. And then both of us laughed. So I thought, okay, maybe it's not serious, right? And then the next day he called me, he said, okay, why don't we do it, right? I started doing it at no pay. I didn't even negotiate. Okay, how much are you going to pay me to lease Megawide? Okay, and to do this, right? So it probably took us around more than a year, 1.5 years.
Were you employed? Did the employee eventually, Edgar? What happened there? So
No, it was after the listing.
after the listing, pa.
Yeah.
So you were like a free consultant at the time.
Yes, that time I thought, okay, this is just 1 gig. My typical, I have many racket.
May side maraming hustle.
Yeah,
Maraming hustle.
so I thought, okay, this is just a one-time gig. I'm gonna lease it, and then that's it, right? So it was a success-based package, right? So long story short, we basically successfully leased it in 2011. Okay, that started actually the wonderful journey. That when we look back, we'll always laugh. It started with, kwentuhang barkada lang started it. And after the IPO, I have other plans. Okay. It was then Edgar said, okay, why don't you just join us? Let's do a Voltes 5. Whatever's your dreams, let's just do it together. Let this be our journey together, right? So that's when they invited me to join in their group and appointed me as the CFO. Okay. Again, it's not your conventional, you start from a certain position and then rise from there, right? So back then, obviously, I'm an entrepreneur. And I think the same with Edgar. We don't have a corporate background. Okay. An entrepreneur is very different from a corporate setup. Okay. So it was on the job training. we need to basically learn how does a corporate structure works, and what really is the job of a CFO. Maganda pakinggan, okay, I am the CFO, but what really is the job? Because again, as an entrepreneur, businessman, you're always you're everything, di ba? You're the president, you're the CFO, you're the cashier, you're the everything, right? So this is we have to go through a real life schooling, no? And then we are first generation, okay? None of us has the backing from our family, right? And we have to really be innovative in order to play in the playground, right? So we started to basically chart our course. We said, okay, we are a construction company, we are an engineering company. Being in a construction industry, it's feast or famine, okay? Maybe in a given year you won many projects, then it's a feast, diba? So we said, why don't we diversify? Why don't we leverage on our engineering core and develop infrastructure projects that will give us that recurring income, okay? Which the market loves, okay? Nobody wants to invest on a construction company. It's cyclical. But if we're able to sell that vision actually, okay? And let me just step back. Everyone see the finished product, diba? But behind the scene, it was very difficult. We tried to sell our vision, the story during the Megawatts IPO. It was very difficult. No one actually wanna bet on this story. Only to the last minute. You know who took a bet? The richest man in the Philippines. We don't know kung nabudol namin siya or what. But seriously, how can you ever thought of, selling your story to the richest man in the Philippines, right? So the C family took a bet on us, invested. But prior to that, we've already doing some construction projects with SMDC. So there was already a recall. They know who Megawatt is. But
still as a privately held company at the time.
Yes, at the private, the family private held company, right? So they actually give us that very huge break, okay? And so when we launched that was the 5-year diversification, meaning, okay, we identified, okay, let's enter probably into transport infrastructure and utility infrastructure. Why? Because that time we had transport backlog, utility backlog in areas where we can apply our engineering expertise and do it better. Okay. And that time, sakto, during the Aquino administration, they launched the PPP, the Public-Private Partnership. It was a very good program because it opens up to a level playing field. I'm not saying that businesses are being done otherwise, but it provides new kid on the block like us to participate. Okay. And we somehow excel when it's a level playing field. You bid it out, you submit the best bid, and we actually won 5 or 6 projects. And our crown jewel was the Mactan Cebu International Airport. We know nothing about running an airport. Okay. It has always been lakas loob. Let's just say yes and figure out how to do it. Yeah. So we participated, and there was a very interesting story there also. Before you can participate, you need to satisfy a financial technical qualification, right? Since everybody in the Philippines never had run an airport before, you need to partner with an international, right? So we try to approach international airport operator. Obviously, Megawatt, they would prefer Megawatt who? They would prefer to partner with the Ayalas, with others. And then there is this Indian airport operator that wanted to come in, right? And this Indian operator obviously approached first all the big names. Okay, so you have 2 people in pag-ibig sawi. Okay, nobody want to partner with that Indian, and kami wala. Then ended up partnering together, and we won the bid.
Wow.
Okay, and the rest was history. We're able to transform Mactan Cebu Airport into a world-class, award-winning airport, right? So that's the transport. And in 2014, we actually founded the Citycore Renewable. Okay, we entered into utility. So that time, if we are to enter via the conventional coal, there's no advantage because the big boys are there already. So we have really to find a niche where can we possibly excel? That's when we thought of renewable energy, because it was a nascent. It was really start. People are started to look at renewable energy. So that basically started the whole journey for this renewable energy sector.
So when you went into renewable energy in the first place, I mean, you could see the opportunity, but at the same time, there were a lot of, I guess, barriers on the way. Help me understand better. Like you saw, okay, let's get into this one, but you're already a new player. I mean, to the mind of the public, it's a risky. This
Yes.
is a risky bet. How did you guys manage this whole process of getting into renewable energy? Help me understand that story.
Yeah. So again, it's engineering, right? So when we look at the renewable energy, that time the government was also providing the incentive, the feed-in tariff to encourage investment, right? So we thought, okay, this is it. We got the government as an off-taker, because in business, obviously you assess your risk, right? What are the risks? First, market. Who's your customer? So we have the government as the off-taker, as the customer. So that's check. Second, okay, do we know how to build it in the most efficient, cost-efficient way, right? We are an engineering company, so we know that, okay, we can build in a more cost-efficient than others, right? And then third, we think that although that time it's very difficult, but we think that somehow writings on the wall na what's going to happen, the power is like what happened to automobile, to the telecom industry, from horse carriage to combustion engine, right? And then telecom from analog to
Digital.
to digital. So power, we thought, okay, because this is going to be something big, because basically you're harnessing the nature, okay, and producing electricity, right? But we have we learned, this is also a very good opportunity for us to learn how to temper our gang ho entrepreneur spirit, because it's a new. Immediately we jumped in, we built 3 plants total to 103 megawatt. That was very big for a startup.
Yes, yes. Oh.
And we learned our lesson badly, because we obviously we got burned. Okay, we were not able to finish on time to meet the feed-in tariff, so we were forced to sell electricity at a significantly lower price. So we were losing money for the early part of our business. But then we are determined and probably tenacious enough to ride it out. And true enough, with the technology evolving, it became more cheaper, and suddenly the world realized, hey, renewable energy is the way to go. And with all the external and internal factors, then we're able to turn around the company.
I like this idea that a lot of the entrepreneurial mindset is there, which is, of course, it's getting the opportunity, then going first to market, and of course, it's tenacity, because that's what you needed to actually make sure that the business survived. Can you help me better understand, with the time, that what are the biggest lessons that you learned? Because there were pros and cons, obviously, of building the 3 plants and saying, okay, and it didn't work, but you had to hold on and make sure that eventually turn things around. Help me go through that process. What were the challenges, and how did you use the entrepreneurial mindset to sort of power you through those times?
Yeah. Well, first you need to have a clarity of your vision, of your goal, because that will help you remain anchored during difficult times, right? Because if you're not sure about your vision, it's easy to just surrender, right? We did reach that point. We thought, oh, maybe it's really not for us. Okay, we did reach a point where we want to just surrender it, but somehow we believe in our vision. Okay, somehow we believe, we should apply all this mistake into a learning curve, and it will make us stronger, right? And true enough, through even on our personal life, not only in the business, we went through many hardship. I always tell my children, I believe in, obviously we have different timing in life, right? But normally when you start early, right? So probably we after college would be probably on the 25, 26 year old until 30 years old. There's a timeline where you try everything, you burn everything, right? But when you reach at the age 30, you should already be, where you want to go. You know exactly what is your passion, what you want to achieve, because you need to start. Because on my estimate, it will take 5 years, 8 years, steep learning curve. You will really feel the pain, the struggle. So by that time you get to a relatively stable setup, you're already going 40s. Eh. So by the time you hit 40s, you really have to apply all the learnings that you learned in the 10 years, right? So that it will make you stronger. So the key there is have a clarity where you want. If you believe in your vision, hang on to it, no matter how difficult it is. Hang on to it, and then continue to apply your learnings. And obviously, with some people call it luck, but with the grace of God, everything will just turn around.
Will come into place.
Yeah.
Hey, his name is Chico Garcia.
And his name is Gino Quillamor.
And together, we are Only Fun.
That's right, for only $12 a month.
But if you're willing to pay, why not? No, we're from a podcast that talks about movies, TV shows. Basically, we do reviews of K-dramas, whatever is on streaming, whatever is on cinemas. We also get to occasionally interview celebrities, actors, directors,
and of course infused with our own witty brand of humor and slice of life.
Wow. I guess we don't infuse a lot.
Check it out.
If in earlier discussion you kept on talking about things were unconventional for you guys because you had the entrepreneurial mindset in putting things up. And the way that I look at it is because you've leapfrogged other more established construction companies to come to this point. Why do you think, what made it different for you guys? Because as I was thinking of that question, I was saying to myself, lahat naman ng mga construction companies, they were also entrepreneurs like you guys when they started off. But you guys were able to, I guess, really, create new spaces over here. What do you think made you different from the other companies that were already out there doing construction?
Yeah, I think we think differently. And what do I mean by we think differently? We'll always make a point, whatever business industry that we are in, we need to do it differently. Okay, true construction company is construction, right? But we make it a point in Megawatt, we apply different technology. When everyone was still using coco lumber formworks, we were already using steel. We were already using first world technology. In fact, we were the first to use the precast, prefabricated concrete, right? So because we need to find our niche, we need to really find a way how to do it differently. Obviously, it's very scary kasi you're the first to do it. Eh. So you're basically going against the tide, di ba? And in construction, because of the cyclicality, why would you invest in a prefab manufacturing plant? So we were able to merge manufacturing with construction. So we try to manufacture as many construction components offsite to control on the quality and cost, and then deliver it to the site. We do it differently. That, I believe, was the secret formula.
And you said at the very start, when Edgar and you were, having the conversation about, you thought it would go IPO. What made you think that Megaworld could go IPO versus other construction companies that were still privately held that didn't want to go IPO?
You're the first one to ask me that. The truth? Wala, nothing. Because I was already exposed to the stock market, to the capital market, where I'm the buyer of a stock, diba? I always thought, it's like, forgive me for saying this, but it's like the bank always win, diba?
It's like the casino.
It's like the casino, right? So I was thinking, I should be the one selling the IPO and not be a buyer of the IPO. So when this opportunity came for Megawatts to do the IPO, I immediately say yes.
I see.
Because this is it. It's like, okay, we'll be the one to do the IPO and sell the story than ikaw yung binebenta ng story and you subscribe to the IPO, right? So it was really that.
I see. When you together with Edgar were coming up with the idea of what makes Megaworld a bit different. And you were talking about its technology that should be your key differentiator. Was it something that you came up from the very start, or was it something that you eventually, through trial error, said, "Okay, this is going to be what's going to make Megawide different"?
Well, I will not grab credit because it's really Edgar now. Because when I come in, their mindset is already in technology, doing in the construction industry. That's why I thought, okay, this is something else, no? So that's why I said, okay, I think we can do an IPO because it's different from the traditional construction contractor that I've talked to. No, they somehow think differently. Yeah,
I see. And then, like you said, you came from an entrepreneurial background and mindset, which had its pros and cons. Can you share with us a bit more how, if an entrepreneur does business, what should they understand as they start to formalize? What are the key lessons that you got, I think, on the way that you think other entrepreneurs can also appreciate?
yeah. Well, first, obviously, whatever is your idea, your product, it has to solve a problem. It doesn't really have to solve a country's problem or a society problem, but it need to address a need. Okay, because at the end of the day, your market will be those who need solution to the problem, right? Yeah. So that's number one. Second, you need to find your niche. You need to do it differently. Otherwise, you will just be one of them. How do you gain market share? How do you stand out? Because at the end of the day, everyone in the business are chasing after the same market, right? So you need to think differently how your product will stand out, right? And then third, you really have to persevere because it's not a walk in the park. It's not an overnight success. Okay, you really have to hang on to it.
I got that. I mean, you started going corporate or professional. What did you have? Did you have to adjust anything in terms of being an entrepreneur, or did you just redirect your entrepreneurial energy?
Oh, we have to adjust. But again, we are very careful. Even after 15 years after being a corporate, we always remind ourselves, let's not lose our entrepreneurial spirit. Because sometimes the problem with from an entrepreneur, then you become a corporate. We see that in conglomerates. Right? When you become a conglomerate, a corporate, sometimes you lose the entrepreneurial spirit. Becomes bureaucratic. You tend to move slower than you used because business is opportunity. So if you move slower, someone will get that opportunity, right? But it's a very difficult adjustment because as an entrepreneur, normally you make decision faster.
Yes, that's right.
Right? If we are partner tayo lang mag-usap.
We agree na kaagad.
Ganun.
Sa meeting of the minds tayo na.
Yes,
diba?
diba? In a corporate, you can't do that because you have governance structure. You have the board of directors, especially publicly listed, right?
That's right.
So it's really quite an adjustment wearing a corporate hat, right? And then also, I learned that, okay, there's a difference pala from a CFO and a CEO. So I was a CFO in Megawide, now I'm a CEO. I thought, parehas lang yan. You know, as an entrepreneur, you always think parehas lang yan because you always do.
Because you wore all the hats at one time.
Yes,
right?
yes. That's an entrepreneur, di ba?
Yeah.
There's a big difference pala in a corporate setup. So we learned those on the job.
I see. Now let's go back to Citycore. It's very interesting. Going back to the journey now. When did you finally decide? And like for me, it's also an interesting thinking for me now. When did you finally decide that, okay, I have to spin this off separately from what we're doing here in Megawide? Because as an entrepreneur, I can handle everything. I can take care of everything. But when did you finally decide that this is one opportunity worth pursuing as a separate company?
Yeah. So as you correctly pointed out, siyempre, our relationship kasi, of course, over time becomes we're like barkada. No? So for a barkada, you want, kung nasan ka, lahat nandyan, di ba? But we reach a point where, we're overstretching ourselves now. So Edgar, I, and another partner, Louis, so we said, we have to divide our businesses. It's becoming big. Okay. Someone need to focus on one business segment, right? Edgar being the only civil engineer among us, he focused on construction and our property business, right? Louis obviously focused on the transport infrastructure. So I ended up looking after our renewable energy business now. It's funny because I mentioned I started as an electrical engineering, got dropped out, and lo and behold, it's a full circle.
Full circle for you.
I'm now running a power company where probably 80% of my employee are electrical engineers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And having said that one, tell us a bit more about, the growing pains that you had that will be a bit more, I guess, instructive for those putting up. What did you learn from putting up the power company that's important? Because I'm sure there were many challenges, but also failures along the way that became eventually good learning. Like you said, it was a learning curve for you.
Yeah. Well, many learning curves now. One would be again the agility. Okay, because obviously everyone naman in the business, even an entrepreneur, you started planning, analyzing everything, but you can only plan so much. Sometimes when you execute, no matter how you plan for it, it's different on the ground. So the importance of agility. So okay, if it's different, how do you now cope up, and how do you now recalibrate your strategy? It's very important. That also will keep you afloat, right? Because if you lose agility, you'll probably die with, once you hit a wall, you hit a problem, diba? So you really, the power of agility. Second, you take care of your people, because at the end of the day, you're as good as your people, diba? You take care of your people. You need to nurture them. You need to make sure that they also grow with you as the company grow. Because at the end of the day, you need them to upskills. You need them to grow with you. That's what we call inclusivity. And then third, at the end of the day, you need to be flexible din. And this is where you need to manage your emotion. Sometimes, siyempre, if you're a visionary, sometimes matigas ulo mo. No, this is your vision. You need to know when to give up na, I think I was wrong. It takes humility to admit that you are wrong and move on to the next than holding on to it. It's like trading stocks, di ba? You do cut loss, di ba? I mean, you need to know when do you really need to cut loss, even if it hurts.
And the scale of you doing this one, like for me, I can't even fathom the idea that if you fail, it's a big failure. I mean, help me understand, how did you cope with that failure? I mean, because it's big for me, especially you've got investors, you're working with the scales of building structures. How do you handle failure I guess at your size?
Well, first you need to have the proper diagnosis. Where did you fail? Okay. So like when we're doing the solar earlier on, obviously we failed because we are bleeding because we are not able to sell our electricity at the right price because we missed the feed-in tariff, right? So what we did was, okay, we tried to make lako. Okay. With retail. We talk to retail customer and try to sell as high as possible, right? Second, we address the OPEX, try to really manage the OPEX and just to survive it lang. And we know that, okay, these are probably bad apples. We need to invest on good apples, and on a portfolio basis, it will be able to if you consolidate and on a portfolio basis, you will be able to come up with a good return per annum.
So it's just really tightening your pants and just moving forward.
Basic. Go back to basic.
Yeah. Paano ka my basic question would be, paano ka nakakatulog sa gabi na knowing, parang yun yung magnitude ng problem ninyo sometimes?
I won't be hypocrite, diba? Obviously, there are nights that I lose sleep, right?
Uh-uh.
But again, I don't want to sound spiritual here. What helped me survive through my hard times is knowing that I have a God where I can run to and just cast all my burdens and worries, and then rest and wait for Him to do miracles, to just let the things just for it to happen.
Got that, and I'm a firm believer in that as well. Now, can you give us a better picture right now for Citycore? You were doing some solar, some wind, and hydro also at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What can you give us a better idea of the portfolio?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we're primarily solar. Okay. Today, we have 10 operating solar farms totaling to a gross installed capacity of 285. We're building 8 more to be energized this year. We have, I think, around 250 megawatt that will be online next month or April, and then until September, October, right? And then we are building 1,000 megawatt of solar every year the next 5 years. We're also about to start construction of 4 onshore wind.
Wow.
Totaling to 362 megawatt. Okay. And we're building our maiden runoff river hydro. It's a relatively small, 20 megawatt. Okay. Because we want to test first.
So that's your learning curve over
yes,
there.
that's our learning curve. And then once we get comfortable with it, then we will also scale up our runoff river hydro.
Yeah. And what was the learning from all this one as you get into the different renewable energy sources? What insights are you gaining that would be very useful also for other people to learn from?
First, you need to have a clear what is your product in the market, right? We want to offer a pure renewable energy 24 hours in a day. Solar won't give you that because obviously at night you don't have the sun, so you don't you cannot generate electricity. That's why we thought, okay, we should partner the solar with wind because it can operate at night. And then with technology, with the battery energy storage system, we'll be able to provide renewable close to 24 hours in a day. So that's the driving rationale why solar, wind, hydro. It's to come up with a product, pure renewable, that we can offer 24 hours in a day.
I see. So that was the kind of the logic that you guys were going through as you were choosing the renewable energy sources that you had to create.
Yes.
And having said that, I know it's quite a challenge. What do you think would be what's been your for you from Megawatt to Citycore? What's been your personal proudest moment for you when you were doing all these projects?
Obviously, when I look back, we already have 3 publicly listed entity, right? Megawatts, CREIT, and CREC. CREIT was also innovative in the sense that we're the first energy team REIT, right? That's my source of joy, okay? Because my passion really is finance, okay? My source of joy is because, I was able to create a product and sell the IPO, right? But again, it's not only me. It was a team. I was fortunate enough to lead a team to create that product. And my biggest joy was we are inspiring startups because again, we did not inherit from our family, right? Kaya pala. You can compete with the big boys. You just need perseverance. You just really need a vision and stick to your vision and do it. It can be done because by the grace of God, we're able to do it.
Yes, yes.
We may be not in the same league with the Aboitiz, with the San Miguel, but at least we're being recognized, right?
I see. Talk a bit more about so people don't know also the C-REIT that you guys are doing and how it's connected back to Citycore.
Yeah. So C-REIT basically today is the largest renewable energy property landlord. Okay. It leases the property to power generation company. Okay. It ties up to the Citycore Renewable being the sponsor because as it roll out projects, it will require more land. So CREIT will be able to expand its leasable property to mimic the growth of CREC. So in a way, it's a complement.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but I want to see how we can explain, let's say, to people who might not have an understanding of how REIT works and how actually it's actually it benefits together with the growth of Citycore. If you can maybe explain it a bit more clearly.
Yeah. So it works like a mall or office building, right? Wherein the REIT owns the land. Okay. And then your tenant rent the land from the REITco, put up a building or a mall, and then lease it out to different tenants, right? In this case, CREIT owned the land where CREC
CREC which is Citycore Renewable.
Citycore Renewable. Where Citycore Renewable put up the solar farm. Okay. So CREC is paying a lease for the use of the land, while it is generating electricity to sell to the consumer. So as Citicore Renewable is building 1,000 megawatt every year, it will require approximately 1,000 hectares of land.
That's right. That's right.
So as Citicore Renewable expand, it will require that land. Hence, CREIT will also expand its leasing business portfolio.
Great. So that means that people can also invest in CREIT so to be able to benefit as you grow Citycore.
Yes.
What a great business opportunity. Speaking of business opportunity, I know that you still wear your entrepreneurial hat and it doesn't stop, right? What are the business opportunities that you're also seeing for entrepreneurs who are up and coming? And, you know, if you're looking at the energy sector, I'm sure you're seeing things in the ecosystem where entrepreneurs can still play in. And what would you recommend to them is something that they should look into?
Again, first you need to determine which industry, which problem are you solving, right? And then then you try to leverage on your position. Like in our case, we own huge tract of land. Okay, we know aside from electricity, we should find the right product, to the right crops to grow. So we can actually enter, and we see a lot of opportunity in the agriculture space because we own the land already.
Yes,
we just need to find the right crops that we can grow underneath our table, and that can also be a very, very big opportunity. Okay, because we also import a lot of our food products, right? And then, you know, if you look at probably compared to last year, you will probably notice a lot of BYD EV vehicle, right? We're still at the starting stage where consumer market, starting to embrace EV. That is another driver for electricity demand in the country, right? So just look at the electricity. There's still a huge opportunity to grow.
Wow, fantastic. And you know, this has been a really great discussion, and I wish you could keep on going on. But then, if you were to, you know, look back at those days when you were still selling building material to Megawatts, up to putting up the IPO, trying the business, to even all the way to putting up Citycore, I'm sure that there have been some key entrepreneurial takeaways that you've had, something that you want to share with your kids that you've learned from all your entrepreneurial experiences. What would be these key takeaways that you want to share with budding entrepreneurs?
So first, obviously, everything starts with a clear vision where you want to go. Otherwise, whatever you do, if you don't have a clear path, you end up only lost and, you know, giving up during difficult times. That's very important. You really need to have a clear vision where you want to go. Okay. Second, there has to be fun. It has to be something you are passionate, because we have a mantra in Megawatts. You know, whatever we do, we don't want to lose that fun also, because that keeps you going. And sometimes it's more fun to have a group in a journey than doing it alone, right? So keep that fun. That will also give you sense of fulfillment. Third, make sure that at a certain point in time, what you are doing should try to benefit as many people as possible. That gives you the sense of purpose. Okay, so you have the vision. You need to have that fun to keep you, and then eventually you need to have a purpose that will take you to the next stage.
Fantastic. And finally, as we end this discussion, Ollie, what's the vision for where do we see Citycore in the next couple of years?
Oh, the best is yet to come for Citycore Renewable Energy, because this year we're going to energize 1,000 megawatts. You know, it gets exciting. We just signed a private placement with Pertamina. It opens door for us to potentially expand into Indonesia. Fantastic. With Pertamina, right? So while we're focused on Philippines today, we're starting to lay the ground for eventual regional expansion.
Wow, bravo. Bravo to yourself, to Edgar, to Louie, and all those. Really, we're having some fun while help as many people as possible here in the country. Again, Ollie, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for guesting here on the RJ Ledesma Podcast. Really a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
The opinions of podcast creators, hosts, and guests are not necessarily reflective of the official stance of the Pod Network Entertainment, its hosts, or other network programs. The content created by the people behind the podcast is personal and not meant to harm any religion, ethnicity, group, organization, company, or individual.